Good morning and welcome back to my class. In today's class, we are going to discuss what is money and how money supply is measured in our country. So first of all, what is money? So there is no such unique definition of money, and we can define money in terms of its uses. So first of all, when you think of money, what comes to your mind? If you have got a 100 rupee note, then what will you do? We can go to the market and buy goods and services. So what is the function of money? What money is doing? Money is acting as a medium of exchange. It is not satisfying our wants directly, but it is helping us in purchasing those goods and services which satisfy our wants. So money acts as a medium of exchange. So what money does? Acts as a medium of exchange. Suppose I am living in a isolated island. There is no other family in that island. So what I need to do? I have to grow my own food. I have to grow cotton and weave my own clothes. I have to make my own hut or house. So in that case, if I have got 100 rupee note with me in that island, is there any use of that note? No, because there is no one else in that island so that I can exchange goods and services with that person. So money is significant only in that society where there are more than one economic agents, so that these economic agents can exchange goods and services in exchange for the money. So money facilitates exchange. Now when you go to the market, how do you value things? Suppose you go to a jewelry shop. There are various kinds of jewelries: diamond jewelry, gold jewelry and silver jewelry. So how do you value these jewelries? That diamond jewelry is expensive, is precious, and silver jewelry is not that precious. Why is it so? Because the value of diamond jewelry is more in terms of money. The price of money in terms of the price of diamond jewelry in terms of money is more than the price of silver jewelry in terms of money. So money acts as a unit of account. That means unit of account, it acts as a measuring rod for which we can value goods and services. So other function of money is acts as a unit of account. Like this marker is worth rupees 25 and this board is worth rupees 1500. So that means we are valuing the goods in terms of money. Now if you are earning 10,000 rupees, what will you do? Will you spend whole amount on consumption of goods and services? No, we don't do that. We save a part of our income to secure our future. So if I earn 10,000 rupees, I'm not going to spend the whole amount. I'll save a part of it. Suppose I'm spending 7,000 rupees on the consumption of goods and services, and I'm saving 3,000 rupees for future use. So what I'm doing is, I'm transferring the purchasing power of that 3,000 rupees from the present to the future. So the third function of the money is store of value. So store of value function of money stores the value of money so that we can use this money in future. So I could have used this 3,000 rupees in present for consumption of goods and services, but I am not doing that. I am storing this 3,000 rupees in my bank account so that I can purchase goods and services in future. So that is why the money is acting as a store of value. When money was not there, we used to exchange goods and services for each other, with each other. So what happened? That system was known as barter system or CC economy. CC means commodity for commodity economy. So what happened? If I have got wheat and you got cloth, what will you do? We will exchange wheat and cloth with each other. But suppose I grow excess of wheat in present. So I will not be able to consume the whole lot in present time. And then what will I have to do? I have to store that wheat so that I can use in future. But it is not always possible. The wheat with the passage of the time, the wheat will destroy. What will happen? It will perish. So it is not possible that I can store 1000 kg of wheat for 20 years. It's not possible. So in that case, it is not possible without money to store value for future use. So that is why money is quite useful in storing value. I am earning today, but after the age of 60, when I will retire, I will use that money which I have stored in my provident fund account or in my bank account. So these are the three functions of the money, and on the basis of these three functions, we can now define money. So what is money? Money is something which generally acts as a medium of exchange, acts as a unit of account and store of value. And RBI has defined money as:
money is a means of payment and thus a lubricant that facilitates exchange. It also acts as a store of value and unit of account.
Our next topic is money supply. So what is money supply? Money supply is a stock of money at a particular point of time. So there are two things in this definition. First of all, what is money supply? We will denote money supply with MS. So it is a stock concept and which is measured at a particular point of time. So before proceeding further, I'll explain stock and flow variables also. What is a stock variable and what is flow variable? So stock variable is any variable which is measured at a particular point of time. So if I say that what is the stock of marker at this point of time, I'll say I have got stock of 2 markers with me right now. So what is the point of time? The point of time is now. And what is the stock? Stock is 2 markers with me. So stock concept is measured at a point of time. Like bank balance in my bank account at this point of time. So it is a stock variable. Now another concept is flow variable. So flow variables are those variables which are measured between 2 points of time. That means there is a time dimension. Suppose I talk about my income. I earn income from the institution which I work with. So I start getting my salary from the first month of the financial year, that is April, and to the last month of the financial year, that means March next year. So how much income I am getting? So there is a time dimension, that is a starting point, and there is a time dimension, that is ending point. So flow variables are measured between a period of time. So there is a time dimension T, time 1 and time 2. So what the changes which have taken place between two time dimensions is reflects flow variables. Now to better understand flow variables and stock variables, we will look into these slides.
Now as we know what are stock variables, and what are flow variables. So now we will look into this example which will make the difference between these two variables clear. So in first circle it's given deposits in my bank account between 1st April 2019 and 31st March 2020. Since deposits are taking place between two point of times, that is from 1st April to 31st March. So that is why there is a time dimension and changes in the deposits are taking place between these two point of times. So that is why it is a flow concept. On the other hand, balance in my bank account in the second circle is given balance in my bank account on 31st March 2020. So only one point of time is given, that is 31st March 2020. So it is a stock concept since it is measured at a point of time. Now there is another example given here, that is number of births during the year 2019. It is a flow concept because births are taking place between 2 points of time, that is from 1st January 2019 to 31st December 2019. So there is a change which is taking place in the population due to the births. That is why it is a flow concept and measured during a period of time. On the other hand, population on 31st December 2019 is a stock concept because it is being measured at a particular point of time, that is on 31st December 2019. Differences between stock variables and flow variables. So stock variable refers to that variable which is measured at a particular point of time, whereas flow variable refers to that variable which is measured over a period of time. Then stock variables does not have time dimension. Flow variables have a time dimension. Stock variable is a static concept. Flow variables is a dynamic concept, that is it keeps on changing. Now there are a few examples of stock variable and flow variable. So first of all I'll read the examples of stock variable. So first example is population of a country on 31st March 2020. Money supply in India. Property owned by me, that is if I own a house, so it is a stock concept. National wealth of a country. Now I'll read the examples of flow concept also. Increase in population during 2019 and 2020. So there is a time dimension, there is a starting point and there is an end point. So it is a flow variable. Expenditure on purchase of goods and services. My income, because income changes every month. During the year I keep on receiving my income, so income is a flow variable. And in the same way, national income. As we know that money supply is a stock concept. Now we will discuss the measures to quantify this stock of money supply in our country.
The tradition of compiling and measuring monetary aggregates in our country started in the year 1935 when the Reserve Bank of India, which is central bank of our country, was established. And in view of the changes in the economy as well as the development in the monetary sector, some working groups were formed. So first working group which was formed was in the year, that is first working group was formed in the year 1961, which had suggested some measures to measure money supply in our country. The second working group, which is known as SWG, was established in the year 1977, which had suggested some measures to measure stock of money supply in our country, and which is followed today also. So we'll discuss those four measures later on. Now third working group, which was known as Working Group on Money Supply, that is WGMS, was formed in the year 1998, and they have given some more comprehensive measures of money supply, which I'll discuss in some other video. So first of all, I'll discuss the measures of money supply, which is followed by RBI in modern time, and these are the measures which were suggested by the working group, which was formed in the year 1977. So first measure of money supply is known as M1. M1 is also known as transaction money, and it is the most liquid form of money. Most liquid means it can be readily used to exchange goods and services. It can be readily used to buy goods and services. So, M1 consists of currency with public plus demand deposits with banks, in fact with commercial banks, and other deposits with RBI, that is Reserve Bank of India. Now we can write it currency with public as CU, demand deposits with commercial banks as DD, and other deposits with RBI as OD. So this is also known as narrow money. Now I'll discuss currency with public. So currency with public consists of notes, that is paper notes, which are published by RBI. So there are several denominations of notes like 1 rupee note, 2 rupee note, 500 rupee note, 2000 rupee note. So except 1 rupee note, all other notes are published by the RBI. 1 rupee note is printed by the Government of India, and you will find the signature of Finance Secretary of the country on 1 rupee note, and on all other notes you will find the signature of the Governor of the RBI. So these are notes consist of paper currencies which are published by government and RBI. Then rupee coins. Rupee coins consist of all the coins starting from rupee 1, rupee 2, rupee 5, and the government has authority to publish or to mint the coins up to 1000 rupees. And this was decided in the under the Coinage Act 1906. So according to the Coinage Act, the government has got the authority to mint the coin up to the denomination of rupees 1000. So rupee coin consists of any coin starting from rupee 1 to any denomination which government prints. And then is small coins. So small coins are any coins which is less than rupee, like 50 paisa coin. So whether it is rupee coin or small coins, they are minted by the Government of India at 4 minting centers in India. So these after minting these coins, Government of India supplies these coins to Reserve Bank of India, and then Reserve Bank of India circulates these coins into the economy. And notes are published by RBI and government. Government of India prints rupee 1 note. On the other hand, RBI prints all other notes that is starting from rupee 2 to rupee 2000. Highest denomination rupee which is printed in our country is rupees 2000. So these are the currency which is printed by either RBI or Government of India and comes under CU, that is currency with public, the currency which is held by the public. The second component of M1 is demand deposit. Demand deposits means this consists of two types of account. One is savings bank account and the other one is current account. So these two accounts are known as demand deposits because we can demand the money which is deposited in these accounts using either the check or ATM cards. Just one thing we have to make sure that these demand deposits are the net demand deposits. Net demand deposits means net demand deposits means demand deposits of public only. All the commercial banks hold two types of demand deposits. One is demand deposits, that is deposits of public as we open our accounts with the banks. The other is interbank deposits. Interbank deposit means if one commercial bank opens account with another commercial bank. So suppose RBI holds an account with Punjab National Bank. So that will be interbank account. So when we are calculating M1, then only demand deposits of the public will be included and this will be excluded. So that is why it is known as net demand deposits, that is demand deposits of the public with commercial banks. Now the third component of M1 is other deposits, that is other deposits with RBI. So it is OD. Now it consists of three things, three types of deposits. First is deposits of foreign governments and foreign central banks. Suppose the government of United States of America holds an account with Reserve Bank of India. In that case, it will be included under other deposits. If Bank of England is the central bank of UK. So if that bank holds an account with RBI, it will be included under this head. The second type of deposits with RBI are, which is included under OD, is deposits of financial institutions. Like NABARD, IFCI. So these are not the banks. These are financial institutions which are working in our country. If they hold accounts with Reserve Bank of India, it will be included under OD. The third kind of deposits which are included here are deposits of international organizations. Like IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, World Bank, etc. So these institutions, these international organizations also holds account with RBI, deposit their money in RBI, and that is why they are included under OD. Now there are two types of deposits which RBI holds, but they are not calculated under M1. So first, which is not included, I'll write here. not included in OD. First is deposits of commercial banks. So commercial banks in our country deposit cash reserves with RBI in the form of CRR. So that will not be included in OD. In the same way, deposits of the central union government and state governments these are also not included in the other deposits. Now we have already discussed all three components of M1, and M1 is also known as narrow money since it can be easily and readily used for making transactions, and it acts as a medium of exchange. If we have got a 500 rupee note, we can go currency with public. So if we have got a 500 rupee note, we can go and buy anything. If we have got anything in the demand deposit, if we got money in our account, I can go to the market and purchase anything. So like money, we can use checks also for transaction purpose. So that is why M1 is the most liquid form of the money, because it can be readily and easily used for making purchases. Now second measure of measuring money supply in our country is M2. So M2 is a broader concept than M1. M2 consists of all the elements of M1, that is CU plus DD plus OD. So it consists of CU plus DD plus OD. Then it also consists of, besides all the components of M1, it also contains savings deposits of post office savings banks. The reason why M2 has been distinguished from M1 is that savings deposit of post office are not as liquid as demand deposits of commercial banks. So saving deposits are also savings account which we open with the post office, but these are less liquid than demand deposits of commercial bank, because these deposits cannot be encashed by using check. So that is why M2 is a broader concept than M1. So M2 is broader concept as well as it is less liquid than M1. Third measure of money supply is M3. This is also known as broad money, and it is most widely used by the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India, that is RBI, publishes data regarding M3 after every 15 days. Now broad money, it is known as broad money because it acts as it has medium of exchange function as well as the store of value. So store of value function plus medium of exchange. So components of M3 are, first of all the components of M1, that is CU plus DD plus OD, that is currency with public, net demand deposits with commercial banks and other deposits with RBI, plus time deposits with commercial banks. So time deposits have store of value, acts as a store of value, because in time deposit, when you fix money in your fixed deposit, in that case the money is blocked for a specific period of time. Time deposits, the minimum time period for time deposit is 7 days, and the maximum time period is 10 years. So if you deposit your money with the bank as a time deposit or as a fixed deposit for 1 year, that means for that 1 year, this money will be blocked and you will not be able to use it. So, and neither check nor ATM or debit card is issued on time deposits. Only two transactions are there. One when you deposit the money, and the second one is when the policy gets or time deposit gets mature and you withdraw the money. So that is why time deposits are less liquid, because you will not be able to use it for purchasing goods and services. So it acts as a store of value when you are depositing money today, so that you can use it in future. If you are buying a fixed deposit for 1 year, in that case you will not use your money today, you will use that money after 1 year time. So it will store the value of that particular amount for 1 year. So that is why M3 is the broader concept, because it is less liquid than M1 and M2. And it is widely used by the RBI or Reserve Bank of India. Now the last concept is, the fourth concept is, I'll rub all these. M4. M4 consists of M3, that means all the elements of M3. I'll write here, that is CU plus DD plus OD and plus time deposits. And these are the time deposits of commercial banks. So M4 consists of all these four components plus all the deposits of post office. Whether you deposit money with the post office in the form of demand deposit or in the form of savings deposit, both the deposits with the post office are included here, excluding NSC. So National Savings Certificate is not a permanent thing, so that is why it is not a part of the M4 also. So these are the components which are included in M4, that is all the elements of M3, CU, DD, OD and time deposits of commercial banks plus all the deposits of post office, that is savings deposit of post office plus time deposits of post office. So these are the four measures which were suggested by the second working group in the year 1977, and they are used till today. Now our next topic is high powered money, which is also known as base money. High powered money. We can denote high powered money with H. High powered money consists of notes and coins. Notes plus coins, which are issued by Reserve Bank of India and Government of India. So these are also known as base money or monetary base. This is also known as reserve money. And it is also known as base money because it forms the monetary base in the country, and it is denoted by M0 by RBI. And the data of M0 is released by RBI after every 7 days, that is on a weekly basis. And this concept is also important because it forms a base for the money supply, the total money supply in the economy. So these are the notes and coins which are published by the RBI or Government of India, and the part of this high powered money is with public. That means note or coins which which is held by us. The other part is held by banks. So now we can write the components of high powered money, that is M0. It is CU, that is currency with public, denoted by CU, and cash reserves with banks, denoted by R. These are the two major components of M0 which forms the base for the monetary supply in our country. The third component is OD, that is other deposits with RBI. This is quite insignificant because it forms only 0.3% of the total M0. So M0 forms the base of monetary supply in our country, and that is why it is known as reserve money.
This chart shows the year-on-year changes in the monetary aggregates in our country. And this change is being shown as a percentage change from the last year. Now in first row it's given currency in circulation, that is notes and coins which are in the economy. So there was an increase of 11.9% in the year 2019-20 in currency in circulation. In the same way, currency with public, that is the third row, reflected by blue arrow, there was a growth of 11.8% in the year 2019-20 in currency with the public. This is the cash in hand which we are holding. The third last row reflects reserve money, that is high powered money, denoted by M0. There is an increase in reserve money also, that is 13.2. Second last row is for narrow money, that is M1, and there was an increase of 12.5% in 2019-20 in narrow money, and the broad money also increased by 10.4 in the same year. Now we can see the data of 2016 and 17. Now we can see there are 4 values which have negative sign against them. First is currency in circulation. It is minus 19.7. Currency with public also reduced by 20.8%, and in the same way reserve money that consists of only notes and coins, that is currency, also had a negative value of 12.9%, and in the same way narrow money also reduced to 3.9%. Now what was the reason of the negative negative value or the decrease in these values? Because in 2016 on November 8, rupees 500 and rupees 1000 notes were demonetized. That means they were out of circulation. They lost their power of legal tender money. So that is why the money in the economy, the currency, the valid currency in the economy reduced. in the year 2016-17. That is why currency in circulation also reduced by 19%, 19.7%. And since the money which were holding like 500 rupee notes and 1000 rupee notes, they were also invalid. So that is why in our hand also the liquidity was reduced, and that is why it has a negative value. In the same way, reserve money, M0. So M0 is also consists of notes and coins. Since 500 and 1000 notes were out of circulation, they became invalid. That is why reserve money also reduced by 12.9%. And there's a negative sign against narrow money also, because the first component of narrow money, that is M1, was CU, and CU was currency with public. So that is why when currency with public reduce, this narrow money value also reduce. And that is why these four values are in negative terms. Now these are two charts which are published, which are given by RBI. Now in first chart you can see the year-on-year growth of reserve money, that is M0. So the data has been reflected from the year 2000 and 2001 to 2019 and 20. So there are ups and downs in the reserve money. Sometimes it is increasing and sometimes it is decreasing. But you can see for the year 2016-17 that the value has become negative. So it has gone to the negative side of the chart. In the same way, broad money was also increasing constantly till the year 2004 and 5, and after that it has been declining. But somehow there was an increase in broad money in the year 2019 and 20. There is a slight increase in the broad money. So these are the data which are published by Reserve Bank of India every year, so that we can have information about our economy. Now I will read out the brief summary of the contents which we have discussed today. So what are the components of money supply? So there are two components of money supply, that is currency with public and demand deposits with bank. Now how money supply is measured in our country? So there are four measures. First is M1. It consists of currency with public, demand deposits with bank, other deposits with RBI. M2 consists of M1, that is all three elements of M1, plus saving deposits with Post Office Savings Bank. Then M3, it is also known as broad money, and it is widely used by Reserve Bank of India. It contains M1, all the three elements of M1, plus time deposits with the banking system. Then M4 consists of M3, that is all the elements of M3, plus all deposits with the Post Office Savings Bank, excluding NSC. Now we have also discussed high powered money, which is the monetary based. It is denoted by M0, and it consists of notes and coins with public and cash reserve with banks. In terms of liquidity, M1 is the most liquid form of money, whereas M4 is the least liquid form of money. Liquidity means how easily this money can be exchanged for goods and services. Since M1 consists of currency, we can exchange any goods and services with currency. In the same way, it consists of demand deposits. That is why we can use check to buy goods and services. Now M2 is less liquid than M1 because it consists of demand deposits of post office, which cannot be encashed using a check. That is why it is less liquid than demand deposits of commercial banks. Now in M3, time deposits are included, that is fixed deposits are included in which money cannot be readily used for exchange. It is stored for future use. So that is why it is less liquid than M1 and M2. And in the same way, M4 consists of time deposits of banks as well as time deposits of post office also. So that is why it is the least liquid form of the money. Now M1 is known as narrow money and M3 is widely known as broad money and M0 is the reserve money.
And that's all for today. Thank you so much.